You're watching Extras from the Extension on Eagle Community Television. This show is brought to you by Carico Implement.
Hi, I'm Linda Beech, the Ellis County Extension Agent for Family and Consumer Sciences, and this is Extras from Extension on Eagle Community TV. Well, due to the recent rain in northwest Kansas, flowers are blooming and gardens are flourishing. And if you have planted a garden with the hope of being able to preserve some of that fresh garden produce later on in the season, there are a couple of things you need to think about now. And one of those is thinking about what kind of preserving you might do. If canning is in your future, then we better talk about the kind of equipment you need and how we're going to maintain that before canning season gets here. If you have planted or if you plan to preserve low acid foods like I've got carrots with me, here's beef, combination foods like chili with beans and hamburger, or even a mixture of tomatoes and green chilies, not with any of the vinegar that would be in salsa, but just tomatoes and low acid peppers in this jar. These kinds of foods need to be preserved in a pressure canner. There's no other safe way to do it if you want to keep it on the shelf. Certainly it works in the freezer, but if you want to keep it on the shelf, we've got to either buy or borrow a pressure canner. Now there are a couple of styles of pressure canners, but the one I have with me today has a dial gauge. It's a very common model, and because this gauge has moving parts in it that could become inaccurate over time, we do recommend that you test your pressure canner gauges every year before canning season. Now, if you've got the kind of a canner that only has a small metal weight, it doesn't have any moving parts. Maybe it's a disc with holes around the outside. Maybe it's a weight that looks rather like this one but has different amounts of weight that you can put on. Well, those don't have any moving parts, so there's nothing that's going to become inaccurate in the canning process or over time. But you know, with this kind of a thing, maybe a little bit of minerals from hard water, a little rust, maybe even a hard drop or a fall might make a difference on the little coil of wire or of metal that's inside this gauge and moves that needle. So what I want to tell you today is how the county extension offices across the state can help you to ensure that your canner is accurate and working properly. Because you know, safe canning depends on reaching appropriate temperatures. So even if you do everything else right, but this gauge is inaccurate, you may still have a food at the end of the process that might not be safe for you to eat. So to do a gauge test on a canner, first of all, you can remove the weight because I don't need that. We're not going to heat this canner up. We are just going to test the gauge itself. And to test a canner gauge, I use this piece of equipment. It's designed by one of the canner manufacturing companies, and it's got a master gauge that I will use to compare to the canner gauge that I'm testing after I have applied pressure to pump up the pressure in both of these gauges. So it's a simple matter. This just fits on to, there it is, fits onto the little spout on my gauge tester. And with the foot pump, I'm going to pump up the pressure. We'll test this at 5 and 11 and 15 pounds for the appropriate canning pressures here in our altitude area. And I'm going to compare with the reading that happens here. There are a couple of things that are worth knowing about your canner, and whether it's right on target, too high, or too low will make a difference on how you continue to use your canner through canning season. The test you get from your local extension office will include a sheet that tells you how your gauge compared to the master gauge. So always be sure to keep that with your canner so you know how to make those adjustments if they're necessary. So as you get ready for canning season, do bring your pressure canner gauge, just the lid, to your local extension office and let us check it for accuracy. It will be an important feature of food safety in your home food preserving. Thanks for joining me today. This is Linda Beech from the Ellis County Extension Office, and this has been Extras from Extension on Eagle Community TV.
You're watching Extras from the Extension on Eagle Community Television. This show is brought to you by Carico Implement.
Spring is here, and that means it's time to come out and visit Carico Implement in Hays, Kansas for all your lawn care needs. We stock and sell the full line of John Deere riding lawn equipment, along with Honda walk-behind mowers and generators. We also offer the full lineup of steel power products. If your project requires even more muscle, check out our full lineup of John Deere compact tractors and skid loaders. And don't forget, we have the parts and services to keep you up and running all spring long. So whatever your spring lawn care and maintenance needs are, come on out to Carico Implement for a solution that fits.